This is the schematic for Project 500. These are no connects since I did not use those ports. As you can see, the motors are connected to the outputs. I grounded the input for 2A, so it only spins one way. And then I added a 5 voltage source to the 1A one. The switch is also connected to it with a ground, and then one side connected to the AdMega 328P as an input. And then you can see it kind of corresponds to this circuit. And then this is the flowchart for my Project 500. The code begins and it starts at PWM 0%. Turns off the motor, and then I make a loop that runs 10 times. And then if it checks if the button is pressed. If it is, then it starts at 1/2 a second delay, and if it doesn't, it goes back to PWM 0. And if the button is pressed after the delay, it goes to the 40% PWM. I turn on the motor, run that loop for four times, turn off the motor, run that loop 6 times, and then in the code it checks if the button is pressed. No, it goes back to the 40%. Yes, it runs the 1/2 a second delay and starts the PWM 70. I do the same thing, turn on the motor, run it 7 times, turn off the motor, run it 3 times, and then check if the button is pressed again. No, goes back to PWM 70. Yes, starts the delay for 1/2 a second, then goes to 100% PWM, and then it's the exact opposite as the PWM 0. I turn on the motor and then run the loop 10 times, check if the button is pressed. If not, goes back to PWM 100. Yes, starts a time delay for 1/2 a second, and then goes back to PWM 0. Here in my code, you can see that PWM starts, you turn off the motor, you load 10 into the LD23, you call the frequency delay, and then you decrement it, make the loop run 10 times. Then it checks if the button is pressed. After that, it skips the next instruction, goes to time delay, and then goes straight to the PWM 40. And again, you turn it on, run it 4 times because of R24, loop through it 4 times, and then it turns off, turn off the motor here, and then run through that 6 times, skip the next instruction if the button is pressed, and then over and over again. And then the time delay for that, and then the frequency. Here it is working. That's 40%, 70%, 100%, 0, 40%, 70%, and then 100%.